If you'd have told me, let's see, we picked him on Saturday, right? Friday night driving home, y'all are going to pick Shedeur, I would say that's not happening. But we had a conversation early that morning, and then we had a conversation later that day. I think we had the right people involved in the conversation. At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call. Andrew made the call to pick Shedeur. Just like who's going to start or what play we're going to call is Kevin's call. But that's Andrew's call. He made the call.
Jimmy Haslam's worst nightmare may be unfolding right in front of him. Reports are surfacing that the San Francisco 49ers, reeling from a quarterback crisis, are quietly exploring the possibility of landing Shedeur Sanders. For Cleveland, this isn't just about losing a rookie. It's about the collapse of a franchise identity they've spent months building around him. The idea of Sanders in a 49ers uniform doesn't just rattle the Browns, it sends shockwaves across the entire NFL, leaving fans and analysts wondering if one of the league's most valuable young assets could actually slip away. TV ratings told the story before any front office memo did. The moment Brock Purdy went down with injury in San Francisco, FOX and CBS began quietly reshuffling potential broadcast slates because the 49ers, a franchise that delivered an average of 21.5 million viewers per national broadcast last season, the second highest in the NFL, suddenly had no clear draw at quarterback. Backup Sam Darnold was a patchwork solution at best, and Trey Lance was long gone, shipped to Dallas months ago. That void instantly fueled speculation, and within hours, chatter about Shedeur Sanders as a potential target hit the airwaves. The connection wasn't random, it was born out of numbers, narrative, and the cold reality that the 49ers season could collapse without a recognizable leader under center. What made Sanders the lightning rod wasn't just his rookie pedigree, but how his brief preseason action transformed Cleveland's visibility. In 2 nationally televised exhibitions, he drew 31% higher local ratings in Cleveland compared to Deshaun Watson's preseason starts in 2022. And more strikingly, he created a national conversation that few rookies outside of Trevor Lawrence have sparked in the last decade. Ticket resale prices for the Browns' Week 1 home game spiked from an average of $184 to $276 the week he was announced as the starter, and team merchandise reports confirmed his number. 12 jersey outsold every other Browns player combined during that month. For San Francisco, those numbers weren't just intriguing, they were a direct reflection of the kind of cultural and financial gravity they had lost when Purdy went down. The consequence of even whispered interest was immediate. Sportsbooks in Nevada reported a 48% drop in Browns-related prop bets the week rumors surfaced, as bettors hesitated to back a Cleveland roster that might lose its rookie centerpiece. Conversely, futures wagers on San Francisco's Super Bowl odds ticked upward, not because the 49ers had done anything, but because gamblers assumed their front office wouldn't sit idle. That reaction tells you something critical. Shedeur Sanders has already become a market mover in ways that very few rookies ever do, and that leverage places Jimmy Haslam in an impossible position. For Cleveland's owner, the tension is personal and financial. He pushed hard for Sanders not just as a quarterback prospect, but as a franchise rebranding tool after years of instability. Haslam watched home attendance plummet during the Watson suspension years, with a drop of nearly 12,000 fans per game compared to the 2019 season. By contrast, Sanders' arrival reversed that trend before he had even thrown a regular season pass. The Browns sold out their season ticket allotment for the first time in 6 years, and resale demand for prime seats doubled on StubHub within 2 weeks of his drafting. The thought of San Francisco, a team in a glamour market with a national fan base, poaching that kind of asset explains why Haslam's frustration boiled over into what insiders described as visible panic during ownership meetings this week. The business side is only half the equation. On the field, Cleveland's coaching staff has been forced to calibrate its playbook around Sanders' quick-release passing style, one that allowed him to complete over 68% of his throws at Colorado in his final collegiate year, and post a preseason NFL completion percentage north of 65% with minimal turnovers. Removing him from the equation doesn't just create a depth chart issue, it invalidates months of scheme adjustments made by Kevin Stefanski and offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt. That's why Cleveland insiders immediately dismissed San Francisco's supposed interest as laughable, but the very need to issue that denial shows the weight of the rumor. San Francisco, meanwhile, has precedent for bold quarterback moves. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have already shown they will invest massive draft capital to secure the right player, evidenced by the Trey Lance trade that cost them 3 first-round picks. While that saga ended in disappointment, it revealed a philosophy. If the 49ers identify a quarterback they believe in, they will find a way to get him. And with a roster anchored by Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, and a top 5 defense, they're not in a position to let one injury derail Super Bowl contention. The calculus is simple. A Sanders-type presence could stabilize viewership, ticket sales, and locker room morale instantly. That possibility is precisely why Haslam's emotions reached the boiling point. The Browns aren't just managing a rookie, they're managing a brand asset who's already altered the economic landscape of their franchise. Even the mention of San Francisco's interest threatens to unravel months of progress, and the ripple effects are showing. Local Cleveland sports talk radio, which averaged 62,000 daily listeners in the 2023 offseason, saw a surge to nearly 90,000 this week as speculation about Sanders' future dominated every segment. Haslam knows that kind of audience engagement can collapse overnight if fans believe their young star is even remotely in play for another team. The headline reality is unavoidable. Whether San Francisco's plan is smoke, leverage, or legitimate pursuit, the mere idea of Shedeur Sanders wearing red and gold has destabilized the Browns in ways that no defensive scheme or AFC North rival could. And the numbers in ratings, ticket sales, merchandise, and betting markets show that this isn't just a football story, it's a business earthquake. The urgency behind this storyline is rooted in timing. Cleveland isn't in a position where they can brush off outside noise, because their entire offseason investment has revolved around Shedeur Sanders. Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski tied their roster-building decisions directly to the assumption that Sanders would be under center. They passed on acquiring veteran insurance, opting instead for developmental backups who could complement his style. That gamble made sense while the narrative was stable, but the second San Francisco's quarterback crisis collided with Sanders' meteoric rise, that stability evaporated. Measured by numbers, the stakes couldn't be clearer. The Browns' season ticket renewal rate for 2024 to 2025 jumped to 92%, their highest since the team's return in 1999, and the single factor most cited in surveys to fans was the drafting of Sanders. Compare that to just 64% the prior season, when Watson's uncertainty left the fan base fractured. In simple terms, Sanders' presence restored loyalty that ownership had been bleeding for years. If rumors suggest he's even remotely available, those renewal rates mean nothing. Fans don't pay premiums to watch instability. They pay to watch a star quarterback with staying power. That's why Haslam's panic is more than just emotional. It's rooted in the recognition that his fan base could turn on him overnight. On the field, the timing is just as dangerous. Sanders' preseason reps gave the Browns their clearest offensive identity in years. A quick-hitting scheme that produced 6.8 yards per play with Sanders on the field, compared to 5.2 with the backup unit. For Stefanski, losing Sanders, even theoretically, doesn't just complicate the depth chart. It leaves him with no usable film against starting defenses, no chemistry with his first-team receivers, and no momentum heading into weekend. In an AFC North loaded with veteran quarterbacks like Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, wasting that preparation time is a death sentence. That's why this moment matters so much. Sanders isn't just another prospect, he's the only viable bridge between Cleveland's roster construction and its playoff hopes. Then there's the broader league context. The NFL has leaned heavily on Sanders' rookie storyline in its preseason marketing push, featuring him in highlight reels and leaning into the generational narrative as Deion Sanders' son. For television partners, Sanders' name is a ratings lever they don't want to lose. The Browns' preseason game against the Packers, headlined by Sanders' debut, drew 2.3 million viewers, a 32% increase from the Browns' average preseason broadcast the year before. Those aren't casual numbers, they're the kind of margins networks use to justify premium advertising rates. If Sanders were suddenly tied to San Francisco, the shift in ratings geography would be immediate. A Browns draw in a mid-tier market would be replaced by a 49ers draw in the Bay Area, which historically commands higher ad rates, but leaves networks with regional gaps. That's why the league office is paying attention. The balance of broadcast equity is at stake. The gambling markets further prove why this rumor matters now. FanDuel and DraftKings reported that Sanders-related props, Passing yards, completions, even rushing attempts were generating more action than any other rookie in August. In fact, one Vegas sportsbook executive confirmed that nearly 19% of all preseason rookie props involved Sanders, a staggering figure given the number of high-profile first-rounders in this year's draft. If bettors believe Sanders might shift to the NFC West, that volatility could destabilize not just Cleveland futures but league-wide action, forcing odds makers to overhaul lines at the start of the season. Timing is everything in gambling, and right now, the NFL is on the brink of watching one rookie tilt entire betting boards. Even from a player development standpoint, the timing is brutal. Sanders has just begun establishing his leadership voice in the locker room, reportedly organizing offseason workouts with Amari Cooper and David Njoku to accelerate chemistry. Pulling him out of that role, or even planting the seed of doubt that he might be gone, risks fracturing a roster that finally had a clear offensive identity. That risk magnifies when you consider the AFC North landscape. The Browns haven't won a division title since 1989, and Sanders was supposed to be the catalyst to break that streak. The whispers of San Francisco circling now on the cusp of the season undermine that trajectory at the worst possible moment. And at the ownership level, the timing directly exposes fissures in Cleveland's hierarchy. Haslam has always operated with an emotional trigger, but this particular outburst carries more weight. Sources close to league meetings described him as visibly frustrated, pacing hallways and making pointed comments about poaching and respect. That kind of visible reaction sends a signal not just to Browns fans, but to other owners. Cleveland is vulnerable. In a league built on leverage, vulnerability is the one thing you cannot afford to show. All of this explains why the 49ers' rumored plan doesn't have to be real to matter. The simple fact that it surfaced now, just as Sanders solidified Cleveland's business model and on-field strategy, makes it a destabilizing force. The Browns can't afford doubt. The NFL can't afford confusion. And Jimmy Haslam, more than anyone, can't afford to watch the rookie he pinned his reputation on suddenly appear as a chess piece in someone else's Super Bowl run. Quarterback controversies aren't new in the NFL, but what makes the Shedeur Sanders situation unique is how quickly it has escalated into a matter of economics and identity. To understand the weight of San Francisco's rumored interest, you have to stack it against the league's most notorious quarterback tug-of-war stories, because those past dramas didn't just alter rosters, they reshaped franchises, fan loyalty, and the financial backbone of teams. Sanders, barely into his rookie season, already carries that same disruptive force. Take Eli Manning in 2004. Drafted first overall by the Chargers, he made it clear he would not play in San Diego. The ensuing trade with the New York Giants wasn't just about swapping draft picks. It was about leverage, power, and marketability. The Giants gained a face of the franchise in the country's biggest media market, while San Diego settled for Phillip Rivers, who, while statistically prolific with over 63,000 career passing yards, never generated the national ratings draw that Manning delivered. To this day, New York's brand equity from that decision, 2 Super Bowls, national sponsorship spikes, and consistent primetime slots, dwarfs what San Diego achieved. The comparison to Sanders is obvious. One decision about where a quarterback lands can dictate decades of market power. The NFL knows this, and the Browns fear they could be on the wrong end of that calculation if Sanders were to slip towards San Francisco. Or consider John Elway in 1983 when he threatened to play baseball for the Yankees, rather than suit up for the then Baltimore Colts. His refusal forced a trade to Denver, and the Broncos' trajectory was never the same. They went from an inconsistent playoff participant to a marquee franchise, with Elway leading them to 5 Super Bowl appearances and eventually back-to-back titles. Denver's attendance jumped by nearly 12,000 fans per game during Elway's first 3 seasons, a figure that rivals the bump Cleveland has already seen just from preseason Sanders appearances. If the Browns were to lose Sanders to a larger market like San Francisco, the fallout could mirror Baltimore's, a once proud fan base left in disarray while another city builds a dynasty on their misfortune. More recently, look at San Francisco itself. The Trey Lance saga illustrates both the risks and the willingness of the 49ers front office to swing big. In 2021, the team traded 3 first-round picks to move up and draft Lance, hoping he'd be the franchise cornerstone. Instead, Lance never gained footing, logging just 102 career pass attempts before being traded away. Yet despite the flop, the 49ers remained aggressive, pivoting to Purdy and sustaining top-tier contention. The lesson is clear: San Francisco doesn't fear risk when it comes to quarterbacks. If they perceive Sanders as a more reliable long-term solution, history suggests they won't hesitate to act, and that aggressiveness could once again rewrite a franchise's path. The ratings context only sharpens the contrast. During Eli Manning's rookie season, Giants broadcasts averaged 17.2 million viewers nationally, a 28% jump from the year prior. Compare that to the Browns preseason with Sanders, where broadcasts climbed by more than 30% in local markets and doubled their engagement on NFL social media platforms. The scale is different, but the pattern is identical. A quarterback with a strong narrative lifts not only the franchise, but the league's broader visibility. Similarly, when Elway debuted in Denver, their home opener in 1983 was the highest rated local broadcast in franchise history to that point, drawing a 61% market share in Denver households. Cleveland's preseason opener against Green Bay this year, featuring Sanders, reached a 43% local share, the Browns' best in over a decade. Those numbers show the direct comparison, like one rookie can change the entire trajectory of a city's football economy. Another useful comp lies in the business spillover. When Manning joined the Giants, jersey sales surged, vaulting him into the NFL's top 5 in merchandise, despite playing for a team that had gone 4-12 the year prior. Shedeur Sanders is already replicating that effect. His number, 12 Browns jersey, is tracking toward top 3 rookie sales league-wide, according to Fanatics reports, and resale markets suggest his autograph sessions are drawing 40% higher premiums than other first-rounders. Now imagine what those sales look like in the Bay Area, where the 49ers' national fan base stretches from California to Asia due to decades of brand building. That's why Haslam's panic has context. The numbers prove Sanders isn't just a quarterback, he's a business multiplier. There's also the matter of sponsorships and advertising leverage. When Peyton Manning was traded to Denver in 2012, local sponsorship revenue for the Broncos jumped by $30 million in a single year, largely driven by national brands tying themselves to his comeback storyline. In contrast, when Lance fizzled in San Francisco, the sponsorship spike they had banked on never materialized. Sanders is already closer to the Manning effect than the Lance effect. His presence in Cleveland has revived local partnerships that had dried up, with 2 major Ohio-based banks signing new multi-year deals this offseason. A relocation to San Francisco could multiply that by an order of magnitude, but it would leave Cleveland stripped of the single factor reviving its sponsorship pipeline. Even fan behavior comparisons tell the story. During Elway's early years, season ticket waiting lists in Denver doubled, forcing the team to expand seating capacity. Cleveland hasn't seen that level of demand in decades, but since Sanders' drafting, their season ticket allotment sold out for the first time since 2017. That momentum is fragile. If fans believe Sanders could be gone, the secondary market could collapse as fast as it spiked. And once that trust erodes, as San Diego learned after the Manning fiasco, it rarely returns. So when you line up these historical precedents, Elway, Manning, Lance, even Peyton's free agency pivot, the common thread is simple. Quarterbacks of unique narrative value dictate more than wins and losses. They dictate ratings, revenue, credibility, and long-term brand stability. Sanders, though just a rookie, has already entered that echelon, and the fact that San Francisco's name is attached to him this early is why Cleveland's ownership, front office, and fan base are right to view this moment as more than idle speculation. History shows these moments reshape franchises, and right now, Cleveland looks like the team at risk of being reshaped the wrong way. The business layer of the Shedeur Sanders story may actually outweigh the on-field dynamics, and that's what has Jimmy Haslam so unsettled. Cleveland isn't simply developing a quarterback, they're marketing a symbol. From the moment Sanders was drafted, the Browns front office tied him directly to their revenue strategy, plastering his face across season ticket campaigns, community outreach events, and local TV spots. Within weeks, the numbers confirmed the gamble. The Browns team shop reported that Sanders jerseys outsold Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, and Myles Garrett combined in the month of June, pushing Cleveland into the top 5 in NFL merchandise sales for the first time since 2019. Those numbers aren't minor. They're the foundation of the financial stability Haslam has been chasing for over a decade. To even imagine losing that engine to San Francisco is enough to shake the entire business model. The media side tells a similar story. Nielsen ratings show that Cleveland's preseason broadcast against Green Bay, Sanders' debut, pulled 2.3 million viewers nationally, up 32% compared to the Browns' 2023 average preseason audience. That single spike represented more than $4 million in additional advertising revenue for broadcasters, a windfall tied directly to Sanders' presence. Locally, WEWS in Cleveland reported a 43% household share during that game, their highest football broadcast rating since the 2020 playoff run. These figures confirm what the NFL already knows. Sanders is not just a quarterback, he's a content driver. That distinction explains why San Francisco, one of the league's most valuable broadcast partners, would even allow his name to surface in connection with their quarterback depth chart. The league knows that Sanders in a 49ers uniform would instantly elevate West Coast primetime slots, but it would just as instantly hollow out Cleveland's value in the Midwest. Social media metrics sharpened the picture further. In the week following his preseason debut, the Browns' official TikTok page jumped 370,000 new followers, and Sanders-related posts accounted for more than 60% of their total engagement on Instagram. On X, formerly Twitter, his highlights were the most shared rookie content league-wide, even outpacing Caleb Williams in Chicago. That surge in online visibility has tangible business outcomes because sponsors increasingly value digital share of voice when negotiating deals. Cleveland leveraged that surge into new local partnerships with First Energy and Progressive Insurance, both of which had hesitated to renew during the Watson years. If Sanders moves, those deals would remain, but the leverage Cleveland holds would collapse. The sponsors didn't buy into the Browns, they bought into the Sanders storyline. Ticket sales only reinforced the dependency. The Browns announced their first season sellout since 2017, with resale platforms showing average week 1 prices at $276, up from $184 the prior year. Those figures were in direct contrast to years when Watson sat out, where resale markets dipped close to face value. For stadium operations, the difference between 67,000 filled seats and 52,000 partial capacity is millions in concessions, parking, and in-stadium advertising. Sanders delivered the former before taking a single regular season snap. The risk now is clear. If fans sense instability or fear, he could be lured elsewhere. Resale demand could nosedive back to pre-Sanders levels, leaving Haslam's carefully crafted sellout streak vulnerable. The gambling market provides another layer of context that cannot be ignored. According to DraftKings, Sanders was the most bet-on rookie in preseason prop markets, accounting for nearly 19% of all rookie prop action league-wide. FanDuel reported similar numbers, with Sanders' passing yardage lines driving more handle than established starters in smaller markets like Tennessee and Arizona. These aren't anecdotal shifts, they are market-moving signals that sportsbooks themselves are tracking. If Cleveland lost Sanders, or even if rumors of San Francisco interest lingered, odds makers would be forced to reprice Browns games dramatically. Futures bets on Cleveland's playoff odds already dipped from plus 230 to plus 280 in a single week, coinciding with reports of 49ers interest. For a league that has tied itself so closely to gambling revenue that volatility matters. What makes the business context even more pressing is the contrast in market potential. Cleveland, while loyal, is a mid-tier media market. San Francisco, by contrast, ranks 6th in the nation by Nielsen's size, with a sprawling fan base that extends well beyond California. If Sanders were to shift, the multiplier effect for the league is obvious. Higher ad rates, stronger international appeal, and potentially larger merchandising channels. That's precisely why Haslam views the situation as existential. From his perspective, Sanders leaving isn't just a talent loss. It's Cleveland reverting to the margins while San Francisco cashes in on the very asset he cultivated. Fan sentiment rounds out the deeper context. Browns forums and call-in shows have been flooded with panic, with one local station logging 40% more call volume this week compared to the same period last year. The tone has been consistent. Excitement has turned to anxiety, and fans are openly questioning the franchise's ability to protect its future. That shift in narrative is perhaps the most dangerous of all. For years, Haslam has struggled with a perception problem in Cleveland, viewed as impulsive, disconnected, and reactionary. Sanders was supposed to fix that image by giving the city stability. Now, with San Francisco's shadow looming, fans are bracing for disappointment. If that perception sticks, no amount of spin can undo the damage. The deeper context makes one thing undeniable. This rumor is not just a football headline, it's a financial and cultural fault line. Sanders is the single lever propping up Cleveland's attendance, merchandise, sponsorships, digital presence, and betting visibility. If he goes, all of it unravels. That's why Haslam's reaction is so visceral, and why the Browns' margin for error is effectively zero. The most pressing question is what happens if the 49ers' rumored plan to sign or trade for Shedeur Sanders materializes into something real. The first ripple hits Cleveland's depth chart because the Browns aren't structured to survive without him. Deshaun Watson, even when healthy, hasn't matched the efficiency Cleveland requires. His completion percentage dipped to 61.2% last season, a far cry from Sanders' preseason mark of nearly 65% against NFL-level defenses. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is still viewed as a developmental backup, not a starter in a division loaded with elite quarterbacks. That leaves Kevin Stefanski with no legitimate options if Sanders is removed. The immediate implication is simple. Cleveland's playoff odds, currently hovering around plus 280 on major sportsbooks, would likely plummet to plus 450 or worse, placing them at the bottom of the AFC North projections. On the flip side, San Francisco instantly becomes a different story. Even with Brock Purdy's injury, their Super Bowl window remains wide open thanks to a top 5 defense and playmakers like Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, and Deebo Samuel. Adding Sanders doesn't just patch a hole, it elevates them. The 49ers averaged 29.4 points per game with Purdy healthy last season, good for 3rd in the league. If Sanders can replicate even 80% of that production, San Francisco's playoff odds surge. Futures markets already reacted. Caesars reported a 6% uptick in 49ers Super Bowl futures the week rumors tied Sanders to the Bay Area. For a team that thrives on national primetime slots, Sanders could turn that surge into a tidal wave of attention. The business implications might be even bigger than the football ones. Cleveland has clawed its way into relevance through Sanders, as reflected by a 92% season ticket renewal rate and top 5 jersey sales. If he's lost, that relevance collapses. Attendance projections would crater back toward the 52,000 to 55,000 range per game that plagued the team during the Watson suspension, leaving Haslam with empty seats and angry sponsors. By contrast, San Francisco, already one of the NFL's most lucrative franchises, could expect a surge in merchandise sales rivaling the Colin Kaepernick boom of the early 2000s. When 49ers apparel cracked the league's top 3, Sanders in red and gold would almost certainly push them into the number, one slot league-wide, while Cleveland risks dropping back into anonymity. Another implication is how the league itself handles parity. The NFL thrives on balance. Its broadcast and revenue-sharing models depend on multiple markets producing strong ratings. If Sanders shifts from Cleveland to San Francisco, that balance tilts. The Browns' Week 1 opener, already projected at 12.4 million viewers nationally, would likely dip under 10 million without Sanders under center, reducing ad revenue and weakening Cleveland's value as a broadcast partner. Conversely, the 49ers' primetime slots would balloon. NBC and ESPN would push aggressively to flex them into Sunday and Monday night games. That might serve San Francisco well, but it leaves the Midwest without a marquee draw. Long term, this type of imbalance risks alienating entire fan bases in middle markets, something the NFL has always tried to avoid. The locker room implications are equally serious. Sanders' arrival unified a roster fractured by Watson's controversy, giving veterans like Myles Garrett and Joel Bitonio a young leader to rally behind. If Sanders is pulled from that role, the Browns risk returning to the uncertainty that plagued them the last 3 seasons. Reports already suggest locker room chatter has shifted, with some players privately questioning whether ownership can provide stability. By comparison, San Francisco's locker room, already accustomed to competing deep into January, would welcome Sanders into a proven culture, reducing his growing pains and accelerating his development. That contrast underscores why the timing of these rumors is so dangerous for Cleveland. There's also the coaching dimension. For Kevin Stefanski, Sanders was a lifeline. His system relies on timing and precision, both of which Sanders demonstrated in preseason with an average release time of 2.54 seconds, ranking among the fastest rookies measured. Losing him not only jeopardizes Stefanski's scheme, but his job. Cleveland fans have little patience, and a Sanders exit could make Stefanski the scapegoat before the season even reaches its midpoint. In San Francisco, however, Kyle Shanahan's reputation as a quarterback whisperer would give Sanders the best possible developmental environment. From an optic standpoint, that scenario makes Cleveland look like a stepping stone, and San Francisco the true destination for elite talent, a narrative Haslam cannot afford. Even broader cultural implications must be considered. Sanders' connection to his father, Deion, has created crossover interest from college football, fashion, and celebrity markets. The Browns have been cashing in, booking Sanders for local events, and leveraging his name in sponsorship pitches. If he heads west, that cultural magnetism follows him, instantly embedding the 49ers deep deeper into mainstream pop culture. Imagine the images: Shedeur Sanders on the sidelines of Levi's Stadium, Shedeur running the offense under Shanahan's scheme, and Silicon Valley brands flooding in to sponsor. That's not just a football storyline, it's a league-wide cultural shift. Cleveland, meanwhile, would be left with the embarrassment of being the franchise that couldn't protect its crown jewel. Finally, there's the matter of precedent. If Sanders, as a rookie, can be pried away from a franchise that invested draft capital, marketing dollars, and locker room trust in him, what does that say about stability in the NFL? Owners and general managers will be forced to reassess how they handle rookies who generate immediate cultural and financial leverage. Haslam knows this, and it's why his panic is resonating with other owners. The implication isn't just about one player or one season. It's about whether control over elite prospects still rests with teams, or whether market forces can dictate movement faster than ever before. So the future implications are stark. For Cleveland, losing Sanders risks undoing decades of rebuilding, both on the field and off it. For San Francisco, acquiring him could cement a dynasty. For the NFL, the very balance of parity and market stability hangs in the balance. And for Jimmy Haslam, the owner who finally thought he had found his anchor, this moment may define not just his legacy, but the Browns' place in the league for the next generation. The Shedeur Sanders saga has become far bigger than preseason numbers or rookie hype. It's now a test case for how quickly one player can redefine the economic and cultural identity of an entire franchise. For Jimmy Haslam, the panic is more than emotional outburst. It's a realization that the stability he finally thought he secured may be slipping away, and slipping west to a team already stacked with brand power. The 49ers don't just represent a football threat, they represent the gravitational pull of a bigger market, stronger national reach, and a franchise unafraid to make bold moves. Cleveland, meanwhile, sits at a crossroads. Sanders was supposed to be the quarterback who changed everything, not just in the win column, but in ticket sales, broadcast ratings, and fan loyalty. To lose him now, even in rumor form, would be a devastating reminder that the Browns are still fighting uphill against decades of instability. The NFL thrives on stars being spread across markets, and Sanders in Cleveland made sense for parity. Sanders in San Francisco, however, would tilt the balance of attention and revenue in ways that make Haslam's fury understandable. So the story closes with more questions than answers. Should the league step in to prevent one rookie from becoming the centerpiece of a market tug-of-war? Would Sanders' long-term brand shine brighter in San Francisco's national spotlight, or does Cleveland still offer the platform to grow into a true franchise icon? Those debates now hang over the Browns, the 49ers, and an NFL that suddenly looks more fragile in how it balances stars than it wants to admit.